Yeah, it's a good day. Man, this is going to be one hell of a kicking session. You guys are really going to enjoy it. Of course, my members get first dibs. I did ask you guys for a few questions. I did get to many of them that we didn't already cover. The ones that I didn't get to, most likely we already talked about it. So you should find some of your answers throughout this kicking session. This is part one. I'll be putting out part two for members probably tomorrow. And public, you guys have to get this next week at some point. But wow, enjoy this one. Leave your feedback. Make sure you hit that thumbs up if you guys want her to come back. Let me know. Show me some love. And enjoy this one. Like, share, and subscribe. I'm out of here. Holla! And she could do it all night. It's your boy Crypto Blood, and welcome to another Kicking It session. Today I've got Jane Bond, the mystery trader that started calling in a few weeks ago and dropped a lot of bombs on us. She was really accurate too, people. That's what everyone's going crazy for her, because she was so accurate about what was going to happen that following week in the bond market. Even some COVID-19 stuff that she revealed to us during that one call off the chain. I don't know what episode that was, but everyone, welcome Trader Jane, aka Jane Bond. What's going on? How are you today?
Hey, what's up? I'm good.
Good.
I'm back in Philly. Okay. I left the stick. My work called me and they're like, hey, your self-isolation's over. It's time for you to come back. So here I am, back to a ghost town.
You didn't take a shotgun to work, did you? I know you bought a shotgun.
No. I mean, I had dreams about it. Like going all Rambo, going to the office. But no.
All right. So why Today Was a Good Day by Ice Cube? What made you pick that song?
I picked that song because I was right about the muni bond market. And we made some money there.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So before we get started, I normally like to kind of go through, especially as a first-time guest, I like to kind of go through a little bit about yourself. You don't have to go into detail, of course, because we don't really want to reveal who you are, but kind of give us your growing up years, like what made you interested in trading, and you don't have too many women in the financial markets, right? So kind of give us your spiel on how you got to where you are being a trader.
All right. So back when I was 19, I took out a mortgage and bought a house. And I mean, I'm kind of dating myself here, but it was right before the housing market crash. So I take out this, mortgage. My house is appreciated at like 160K. Mm-hmm. And then within, I don't know, a year later or less, suddenly it's only worth 120K. Ooh. And it just kind of seemed like everyone was placating to the narrative at the time of, oh, Wall Street over leveraged in these, CDOs, and that's what happened. And that wasn't a good enough answer for me. Mm-hmm. So that's when I started going down all the rabbit holes, trying to figure out, like, how does this happen? Mm-hmm. Why does it happen? And that's when I got into like learning cycles, like war cycles, business cycles, agricultural cycles. I just started kind of going down all these rabbit holes, and then understanding the progression of like industry, manufacturing, technology, and read hundreds of books. And I would say then I started thinking, wait, I can make money off of this knowledge, right? Everyone reaches that point where you're like, wait, I can make money off of this.
Right.
And that's when I opened up my first E-Trade account. And at the time, I was previously in the Air Force. So at the time, I was deployed out in the Middle East. I opened up an E-Trade account. We had some downtime, and I would log in for like weeks, and I would check charts, but I didn't know jack shit about like technical analysis. I didn't know jack shit about like looking at balance sheets and value, like checking the, for value and P. I didn't know any of that back then.
Right.
Back then, I was like, oh, I wear Nike sports bras. I should just buy Nike.
Right,
like that kind of thing.
Buy
Everyone's wearing
like.
Nike shoes. I was thinking that. And then I saw that American Airlines went bankrupt. They filed their chapter. And I was Googling around, and everyone was saying, get out, bail, get out. But because of my knowledge from like flying planes, being in the Air Force, you have to take courses on like aviation legislation and in history of aviation, like companies. And I knew that what's going to happen is there's going to be mergers or buyouts. So I thought, you know what? I'll pick it up for $1. So I got into American Airlines, my first trade ever, like dumped like $3,000 into a company that just filed bankruptcy and plummeted. And then I held on to that for a couple years. And then I think it was U.S. Airways bought them out or merged with them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so like I made about $40K off of that. Mm-hmm. But in between then, I was kind of just buying up the Nikes, the companies that you know.
Right.
But during that time also, I got into understanding monetary policies and like the shadiness of central banks and like how they came to be. Yep. And then I was just realizing like there's bigger forces out there. So then it kind of turned me into a like fundamental macro kind of trader where you have this theory, you have this idea, and you just gotta be really patient and wait for these break moments. That, so I kind of, I'll trade on,
right?
Yeah, like I'll trade, options, weeklies. I'll even trade 0 days.
Wow. Okay.
That's just like momentum kind of trading. I only started trading options about 3 years ago. So yeah, before then it was a lot of buy and hold and doing mergers and acquisitions. And let's see, fast forward to, so what got me into trading options is a couple years before then, I was swinging like 3x leveraged ETFs, like BRZU, EWW. I started trading elections. Like I traded the Brazilian election with Jair Bolsonaro, and then the AMLO when I was like playing that kind of thing. So I was also mixing in like geopolitics because I kind of was getting this, I was seeing this trend of like nationalism and like an isolation, kind of like hugging your economy, trying to save it from the outside world kind of thing. Like that kind of narrative was being pushed out. So that's why, I went on like predictit.org and put money down on Bolsonaro, and he actually got shot during his campaigning. And then like on predictit.org, like the probability of him winning the election went down to like cents. And I averaged in hard. And he came out of the hospital, recovered,
and won.
And then won, yeah. And then the only reason why I was solid on the Mexican election is because I actually lived in Mexico City for a year. So I had a lot of contacts, in different government departments there, made a lot of friends, and they kept me in the loop once I moved back to the States. And so I was trading these 3x leverage, ETFs, like swing, like I'll hold on to 3-month kind of positions. Then, what was it? February 2018, there was like this huge drop in the market, like a 20% correction. It was short-lived. But during that time...
That was when the Fed said they, you said 2018?
Yeah, it was 2018 February.
So that was Jerome Powell trying to do his taper. Said he was going to keep it on a pace, right? He was going to continue, not taper, but taper and start to increase interest rates. And the
he was trying to reduce the balance sheet, I think.
Right.
Is what it is. I don't remember exactly, but like I was holding on to all these long positions. I mean, I got murdered during that, and I was getting used to making a good steady income every month, swing trading, just being long in various things. And I'm like, holy shit, I think volatility is going to be a thing. Because there was like that Trump rally all through 2017. All you got to do is just long shit out, like and buy all the little mini dips.
Everything was correlated. Everything was correlated.
So everybody was a great trader then, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then that February happened, and then I realized like I need to be able to really be able to make money when it goes down.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's when I hit the books, and then you're learning about gamma, delta, theta, etc. And going through that process, it made me also watch more on Treasury and Fed policies.
Gotcha.
And then I somehow got into the holes of how does the bond market really work? Like, who are primary dealers? Why are they buying this? Why do they have to have these ratios of like, they can only hold a certain amount of risk assets to tier 1 assets? Mm-hmm. Like I just kind of went through the mechanical plumbing of how the big institutional money really works. And then you find out like it's really sad and dire, like how our Treasury is funded, like how then you realize like the GDP, what the real GDP is, if you take away all of the debt,
mm-hmm.
it doesn't look good.
Right. So tell us. So
that's how I got into trading. I guess was my house going under.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense. And for me too. I mean, 2008 was like the watershed moment for me. That's when I really started going down the rabbit hole, figuring out what the hell is really going on here.
Is that when you started trading too?
No, it wasn't when I started. I started before that, but the thing was, I was just like one of those just basic retail traders, not like you were saying, like buying stuff that you wear and use, and just the plain vanilla stuff that they brainwash retail investors to do,
And most people stay in that for their whole life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and so 2008, I just, I saw that something was not right. Like, something is really under, like the underlying system and structure of our monetary system is something wrong, big time. Just seeing like people I knew lose their homes, and so many people had their wealth invested in real estate, and real estate never went down. When you start having those types of ideologies, when you have the masses saying XYZ will never go down, we have a problem. We don't have a free market anymore, because nothing goes up forever. You have cycles, right? So it just made me, kind of wake up to a lot of things and started looking at books. Did you ever read Jekyll, the Creature from Jekyll Island?
Yeah, okay. That was like,
what'd you think about that?
That was one of the first ones. I think out of the first 50, yeah, that was one of like the first 50 books I read after the housing market crashed.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you think about that
Yeah.
book?
It led me down more rabbit holes.
Mm-hmm.
And after reading that book, you kind of after reading that book, you, for one, will have a giant distrust in political systems.
Right.
And then you'll also realize who really runs the world and why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever go down the rabbit hole of figuring out the families in the world?
Not really.
Like behind. Okay, that was one I went down for like a year.
Houses and J.P. Morgans and all that stuff.
Yeah, you kind of go back into time, and then you see the businesses they were involved in, the countries they were involved in, and that just gets kind of wild. That gets kind of wild.
Yeah, I didn't go that far, but I'm a little familiar with it. So tonight, I really just wanted to get you on. A lot of people wanted to, this is not like a live session, so we get to really dive deep into a couple of topics. I do have some questions that my viewers, my subscribers have sent in, and we'll get to that toward the tail end of this. But I guess I kind of want to start with you in regards to what's going on with this Treasury and Fed deal. I don't know if you saw the op-ed or had a chance to read. I don't know if maybe you did, maybe you didn't, from Jim Bianco that he did.
I have not. Can you catch me up?
Well, yeah, he put an op-ed out in Bloomberg about what the situation and how essentially the Treasury and the Fed are now one. With this whole CARES Act bailout package we got coming down the pipe, it gives them like one power now. They're kind of one, and they're now able to, through their special, what are they called? Can't remember. I think they're called special purpose vehicles. They're able to basically buy and fund these various financial instruments. The commercial paper-backed funding facility. You've got the prime market corporate credit facility, TALF. I'm sure you heard of TALF. That was kind of implemented back in 2008.
All these new fun acronyms that recently came out.
Exactly.
So I would argue to say that the Fed and the Treasury became one, like officially, to people that are, paying attention to this and that actually understand it, back when the first repo crisis hit in last fall, late summer. Yeah. So it was like between like June to September is when that was happening. That's I'm with you 100% on that. That's kind of when they became one.
Okay.
It's like this manipulation of the TGA account.
Okay.
What that is it's a reserve. So when I say reserves, I'm talking about U.S. dollars.
Okay.
So the Fed has reserve accounts for primary dealers, and then they also have reserve accounts for foreign primary dealers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's separated into two. And how there's this giant like circle jerk that goes between the Fed, between the Treasury auctioning off their T-bills and their bonds, and then the primary dealers, the banks in the first market, buying them and then selling them to the Fed, and then that money goes into these TGA accounts. So that's like when the circle jerk kind of really heated up and started.
Mm.
And the one that controls this game. Okay, everyone thinks like the Fed is constantly trying to play catch up. Like there's this feeling that they've lost control. They don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's because the power has been shifted to Mnuchin at the Treasury. The Treasury is the one that really controls all of this. And then it's the primary dealers and the foreign primary dealers that are running around with their heads cut off like chickens.
Okay. And
they have became one. It really has happened.
So how many people really know about this in the administration? Do the Senate, does the House know really what's going on? Does the president know really what the hell is going on here? I have a feeling they don't. They really don't understand what's going on.
I don't think the Senate or Congress understands what's going on. Okay. I think there's a few people that do, of course. The Trump administration, they know what's going on because they were able to take that power away from the primary dealers and from the Fed. Like he knew because I know you've been keeping up with like his tweets, but like the last year and a half, he's been just shitting all over Jerome Powell and the Fed.
Yeah.
Saying you got to lower rates, you got to do this, you got to do that. Yeah. He wouldn't have the balls to bully if he didn't know the games that the Treasury could play. Do you get what I'm saying?
Gotcha. So what happened to this whole facade that the Federal Reserve is supposed to keep, in that it's this independent entity and independent of political, influence and all of this? Like, that's out the window. So it must be bad because now they're not even trying to keep that facade up anymore.
Yeah, it's bad. I agree with you. This is really bad.
Okay, so what about, I want to talk about this mortgage crisis that we have.
You know what? I have that number one on my list of notes.
Let's talk about that because there's an article.
Let's talk about housing.
Yeah, there's an article out of Zero Hedge that I just saw today. It said up to 30% of all mortgages will default in the biggest wave of delinquencies in history. Is it like, I'm just confused because there are like holes that are popping in every section of our economy. Are they like help? Oh, let's just start with the mortgages because I know you saw the print today. Unemployment or claim was initial jobless claim
get worse.
6.5.
It's gonna get worse, man.
The highest estimate was 5 something from Goldman and Sachs, I think, and
fuck them. Stop listening to the shit they say.
6.5
They're
million.
chill.
So tell us what's going on here.
So I got a woman that works in the appraisal department in a company. Okay. Well, the company she works for, she's kind of like this clearinghouse for hundreds of companies around the United States. And she's being told by banks that they need to appraise properties 20 to 40% lower than their previous value for the time being. All right, so that's point number one.
Okay.
Point number two is, I'm not sure if you've been following the Airbnb situation.
Yes,
okay, well, let me first ask you: have you watched The Big Short?
Yeah, of course. I've
okay. Do you remember that scene? Do you remember that scene with Steve Carell goes into a strip club and then the strippers telling him, yeah, I own like 10 condos and all this shit. Yep. Okay, the new strippers are the Airbnb hosts.
Ah, makes sense. Makes sense. I wish I had my gun board up right now. I'll shoot off a couple rounds. That makes sense. You're right, right, right. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense because I'm sure you know Airbnb has literally just bailed out their what do you call it, hosts. They're paying
Dude,
them.
dude,
Where are
they
they
just
getting this
cut.
money? Where's
Cut.
Airbnb getting this money to pay their hosts?
They cut what was it, $800 million in ad revenue. So these stripping Airbnb people running around buying all this property in cities.
Right.
And then, you know what, this isn't the Airbnb thing, the property thing. This is not just a USA problem. Because when I was in Mexico, I stayed at Airbnbs when I was in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And I, became friends with like the hosts and stuff. They were doing the same shit. They had like 20 fucking properties in Mexico City. like the Airbnb is international. So you got to think, how many Airbnb hosts are there in these second and third world country vacation tourist kind of spots where they were all taking out mortgages and putting money into this?
So I'm gonna let my audience know what's going on, at least on the Airbnb side of things. The CEO has committed to a $250 million bailout to cover some of the costs associated with the COVID-19 cancellations. So they're going to be bailing out, I guess, their super hosts. This is crazy. So tell us a little bit more about what's going on that end.
I haven't read the news on that. So, well, the lady with from the appraisal company, she didn't say anything about Airbnb. Okay. The Airbnb information I just found out through people that I know that run Airbnb schemes. And they're telling me, like, they're screwed.
Wow. Oh, yeah. So you were saying that the lady told you that the banks are asking them. Now, why are the banks asking them to write down those assets, 20 to 30%? What is that doing? What does that do to their books? I'm not understanding that. Maybe I'm not following that whole situation.
Because this is the housing crisis, like 2.0.
Okay.
That's why.
So writing down the mortgages, though, what does that do?
Well, no, they're writing down the appraisals of homes. So, you know how I got screwed when I bought my home in 2008? Okay, that's happening all over again, but it's worse.
So they're essentially not, they want to make it look like people aren't taking as big of a hit? Is that kind of what you're saying?
I think what it is because there's an oversaturation of homes and new construction. Okay. I'm sure you've seen these headlines before of like luxury properties in Vancouver and New York City and San Francisco. Because you had all those foreign buyers throwing money into empty properties just as a safe haven to get their money out of the country that they're from.
Australia too. I'm hearing Australia.
Yeah.
See, Australia never went through they never went through a housing crisis. So they've got pent up nonsense from 10 years ago.
Oh, they're in it. Australia's in it right now. They're in the thick of it with their housing crisis. Yeah, so this is another housing crisis.
So
when I'm hearing that a woman that runs an appraisal company and the banks are telling her directly, everything you appraise at 20 to 40% lower than you previously did.
Wow. Interesting. So what's the I mean we know the outcome, but like do you foresee step by step what's going to happen like first? Like you gave us the stages as far as macro, from a macro standpoint, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and or whatnot, but specifically with the mortgage industry, what stage are we in and what stage do we see coming next? What stage do you see coming next with the mortgage game?
Well, there's gonna be nobody's gonna be putting out money to buy homes. The only people that are gonna be buying property are the people that learn the lessons from '08 and '09, where they're sitting on a whole bunch of cash and they're waiting to swoop it up on the cheap. This is the moment where it's going to be on the cheap. Okay. So if you're flush with cash, like, you're king. Okay. Any downturn in the markets or crises, the people that are holding cash always have the upper hand. And
like Warren Buffett, who went cash, like, 100-something billion, 7 months ago? That should have been the harbinger. That should have been the sign for everyone.
There was so many fucking signs coming into this. So many fucking signs, man. Like when you had friggin' 18-year-olds trading options on Tesla.
Yeah.
Like, it's the fucking top.
No, you're right. Robin Hood. Yeah, the Robin Hood. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Wow, so that's
like when you're seeing
guys.
P ratios going out of the roof and they don't even matter, and then and you're just seeing gamma just floating up and up and up, like, wow. Come on, like, there was so many signs. Like, there was over what? Like, I don't know the counting. It was around like 600 CEOs stepped down, bailed out, sold their stock since last summer. Wow. And then the month of December and January hit like all-time world records of CEOs of publicly traded companies stepping down and selling out. Like, zero hedge. I mean, I don't read zero hedge religiously. You got to be careful with that, otherwise you'll become a doomer. Right, but right. I'm gonna give zero hedge some credit because they've been pretty spot on the last like year and a half, 2 years. Before they were kind of mocked at as like super bearish conspiracy doomer kind of stuff. But the last year and a half, they really stepped up their game with like real journalism in the financial market.
I've been a zero hedge fan for 8 years or so. So yeah, I totally understand.
You know what marked the top?
Huh?
You know what marked the top was zero hedge getting banned off Twitter. Did you see that?
I remember that.
Yeah, that was literally zero hedge got banned off Twitter. Right. Weeks before the market top.
You're right. Wow. I didn't even think about it in that manner.
And then, zero hedge was created at the bottom of 08-09.
Yep.
At the market bottom. So it's like zero hedge marked the bottom of the bull run to the fucking top almost to the day.
They're the best contrarian indicator, I guess.
Right?
Start trading that market. So I got a question here for you from my guy. Well, actually, let me find a question from a member first. James H says treasuries have been sold off by foreign governments. What do you think of short-term treasury securities so far? A safe haven as those who lose to least win. I don't know what he means by that part, but what do you think about short-term treasury securities? I'm not sure what he's talking about there.
So he's like kind of talking about the 2, 10, 7, 30 year.
The lower, just the short end of it. Short end. Okay, I got you. I
wrote this in my notes. I have like U.S. Treasuries. I have no fucking clue. Like, and I wrote that this is kind of a tug of war on the price action of treasuries. This is, my head has been, I was getting a headache researching this, talking with people, talking with the bond desk. Like, we don't really know because there's very two powerful forces that are moving the price of treasuries, you know, the price of them and the yields. And I'm sure your audience now knows it's an inverse relationship. Yields go down, price goes up. Yields go up, price goes down. So the reason why I have no fucking clue is because if you have the money supply increasing like this at a rapid pace, then there's this idea that inflation will ensue. So if inflation ensues, you don't want to be in U.S. Treasuries, so you're going to sell, right? You're going to, like, I guess let's talk about, like, why would you buy Treasuries and why would you sell them? So you would sell them if you think inflation is at the doorstep, or if you think there's a risk of sovereign default, or if you think yields are going to keep going lower because you're going to get no fucking returns on them, like on the long-term investor side.
Right. So
then, like, why would you buy treasuries? From my research,
right? Wouldn't you want to protect yourself from a deflationary spiral? Couldn't that be one reason?
Well, this is the idea if you think inflation is coming on.
Okay, inflation. Okay.
If you want to have the deflation conversation, we can have that right after.
Yeah, go
But
ahead.
if you think inflation is coming in, you don't want to be holding U.S. Treasuries. And then why would people want to be buying U.S. Treasuries? I guess so far from what I've researched is it would be another flight of capital to safety. And I'm talking about internationally. Internationally, people are running to the U.S. dollar, gold, silver, and U.S. Treasuries. Or the other reason why people are running to U.S. Treasuries would be because just hedging reasons, I suppose. Or because they think emerging markets are going to default on their bonds.
Which is
so
more
then they're going to run into you. So it is very likely.
Yeah,
it depends on the price
likely.
of the dollar.
Exactly. Right. We know that the treasuries here aren't going to ever default. I don't care how bad it looks because we're buying them,
see
right?
In about 5 years.
Okay. Well,
I mean, there's different time scales in trading, you know, and there's the cycles involved with it. And for people to say, like, the United States of America would never be at risk of defaulting on their sovereign debt, I would just argue that there is a building possibility of that happening within the next decade.
What I mean by that is, the day that we default is the day the whole system, it's because we've gone and moved to another sovereign nation to be the basis, you know, to be the head of world finance. That's the only way I see.
Yeah, there would be a new financial superpower.
Yes, that's the only way. That's the only.
And I don't know if you remember the first time I called in and talked to you. I mean, I barely remember it, obviously, but there is this cycle, it's very long term, of the power shift between the East
Absolutely.
and the West.
Every 300 or 500
years. And I think that shift to the East, I think we're going into it, but it won't really be complete until the year like 2030 something.
Okay, I gotta ask you about
But
that then, if
you
you
know,
feel that way, because I did my video today. I talked about China, right? And China is in trouble. Like,
right now they are,
uh huh,
but they have the infrastructure. They have a homogenous culture,
they do,
race, and society,
they do.
and they have the manufacturing. They are up to speed with robotics and technology. They do embrace cashless society. So in a way, they're advanced, but they're not.
But the thing
You
is,
know,
if you pay attention to what's going on from a geopolitical standpoint now, since this whole COVID-19 has broken out, right? Now the world is starting to slowly turn against China. And it's interesting to see, finally,
of course,
it's like...
of course they would, right? So that would play right into the narrative.
How?
Because when these shifts happen between the East and the West, currency regimes dying, others rising out of the flames, some sort of war conflict is always involved in that. So
That's
now we're seeing the propaganda and the narrative being brought out publicly.
That's what
I mean,
this
is something that's been talked about, briefings, memos passed around in the military, in the Pentagon, like 5 years ago. Is like the Pentagon really does think China is a threat, like economically. They I mean, you can Google this shit. They've talked about it. It's been discussed.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's to me that's obvious. They are a threat. But I think it won't come to head.
I think it will.
What I'm saying is, unless we have a kinetic, it will have to be kinetic. There's no. That's like the peak. That's the climax in this. In the tug of war. It has to end in kinetic war, and that's no good, because they're a superpower. We don't want to go to war with them, because it's like it's going to benefit no one. We'll both lose, in my opinion. But let me get to another question here.
All right.
My man Big O, one of my YouTube members, asked, ask her if she thinks this is a planned pandemic to excuse the death of our financial system. It's a good one. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh man, a lot of people are gonna like this. Yes, I do think it is.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Wait a minute. We're playing 5D chess here. Nah, hold on, people. I gotta put, where's my tinfoil? I don't even have a tinfoil hat.
Hold on, let me open up this other beer. You know, Gin and Juice by Snoop Dogg?
Yeah, that's what we should have played.
It's Jane and Juice tonight.
Jane and Juice. That's hilarious. So, wow. So you think that this was planned? Now, if you think that this
I don't know if the outbreak. Okay. What I'll say is I don't know if the outbreak of it was on purpose. Like, you know, in Wuhan, China, I don't know if somebody, you know, dropped a vial of the bat soup, you know, on a table of fish on fucking purpose. You know, I don't know that of it, but I do know that it was allowed to be spread on purpose globally.
Okay. I can follow you there, because I actually think, and this is something I was doing some more research the other night. I really think, so many people may not know, there's actually a bifurcation of power in China. So you've got you got President Xi, and then you've got another dynasty or side of the whole CCP that they don't really like each other. And the other side is over the labs in Wuhan and all over the country. They run those labs. So I was thinking possibly the other side of the CCP leaked this virus to shuffle up and make President Xi resign or kick him out, right? Get him out of the way, because the people over there are going crazy. They're mad. The economy is slow to a halt. And they're still dealing with this virus, even though they're lying about, no new cases, and the cases they found are from other countries. We know that's a bunch of bull, but that was my theory on it. Now,
that's an interesting theory.
Yeah,
I do know that this virus has been known back in November, December.
Yes.
And that our government knew about it.
They had to.
And, I'll put it out there. I had kind of a leg up on this because my boyfriend originally is from China. So he's able to translate all this stuff. Gotcha. So it's kind of in the beginning loop of it, and he still has family over there. So the way, when we researched this and found out that this is like SARS, then we were I kind of became a freaking biologist and had to study, genomes all over again. I mean, that's the fun thing about being a trader is you learn all the, different skills and stuff like when you go into trading.
Yep.
So this was something like, holy shit, we're realizing this is going to be a thing. This is going to spread globally. And then we're seeing how the media downplayed it. I don't know if you remember, but it was the end of January. The market took a 3-4% hit. And then I was thinking, oh my God, this is it. This is going to be that 30% drop that I've been waiting for. But then the media was like, oh no, it's nothing. It's just an Asian problem. Don't worry about it. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh shit. The whole media is covering this shit up. Both Democrats, both Republicans, they're all covering it up right now. And they let that go for what? Another month? Another month? So then you understand how, the asymptomatic thing, you can be carrying it for a month and spreading it around, and then you bring in international travel, the flights, and then we were researching how many people dipped out of Wuhan, just like people dipped out of New York City recently, and we're like, holy crap, this is going to be a global thing, and they let this happen. They're letting it happen. They're slow rolling it, letting it happen on purpose, because the administration could have signed an executive order beginning of January to cut off all international travel, just like they did for 9/11. Just 9/11, they grounded everything for that, but they didn't do it with this. So that's why I think they just let this spread, and they're like, oh, well, can't let a crisis go to waste, right? Because the bond market was blowing up anyway. The corporate credit bonds, that was blowing up anyway.
It was.
That was the repo shit was already happening. Yep. The European crisis is on its last leg. So you know what? This is the perfect fucking scapegoat for every wrongdoing for the last 10, 12 years in the financial markets. No, actually, this shit goes back 40 years. You want to talk about a bond cycle? This started 40 years ago.
Right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
You're the guy that gave me that question. Listen, I don't know if it was put out intentionally into the public to infect us all, but I do think it was intentionally allowed to be spread around the world.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Understood. Another one from my man Charles Fuchs. Does Jane think the Fed will pump the markets starting next month and the real shitstorm will happen in 2021? Or what are your thoughts? Can they save us? Because we're having a little. It looks like we're building base right now, but.
Oh no, dude! This come on, we're in a bear market. The trend is down. Mm-hmm. It's normal to have these rip your face rallies in a bear market with a 20-50% retrace of the losses. Like, that's normal. That's what we're seeing.
So I mean, I'm with you.
I don't think it's going to be some beautiful U recovery or V recovery. No, knock that shit off. Like, this is Great Depression kind of shit right now.
I'm with you. I mean, they're trying to stop it. I think right now with the markets are trying to price in some things here. But as you stated, the longer this thing goes on, the more initial jobless claims we get. This is going to be crazy.
Dude, those people aren't even going to get their jobs back. Are you fucking joking me? Like, the damage has already fucking been done. There's no coming back from it. Yeah. That's what people need to get that through their heads. Is like, they're sitting at home all peaceful, having their steak and green beans, thinking, I'm going to go back to work soon. No, you're fucking not. Oh, the economy is just going to V-bottom right out of this. Equities are going to reach all-time highs. No, they're fucking not. That's, you know what? Here, I'll make a point to you. So I used to work for a Department of Defense contractor not too long ago. And one of the coworkers still has my contact information. I haven't talked to him in months. He messages me, yo, I heard stocks are cheap and this is a good time to buy. What do you think? Like, come on. Like, the bottom isn't in yet when you have people that just passively invest into 401ks and the media is telling them stocks are cheap, buy here. Jim Cramer told me to buy. Like, no. I mean, if you're a long-term investor, fucking bottom's not in. If you're a trader, just trade the rips and dips. That's it. Right. The trend is down.
Right. Gotcha.
Dude, I don't even think elections are going to happen.
I don't think
the DNC. Okay, I told my trading group, I was like, yo, I don't even think they're gonna start delaying primaries. I was saying this like back in January, and what do you know? You have all these states delaying like primaries, and then finally it got announced today or yesterday?
Yesterday.
Oh, the DNC convention, is delayed till August. Yeah. Really? You think we're gonna have an election in November after all this? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go off the fucking bandwagon here with that. I mean, we could still have the election, but I mean, if it's like they're just spoon feeding people, like, we're gonna watch the curve, we're gonna monitor this every 2 weeks. And then it's like they know every couple weeks, let's push it all back.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The point is that the damage has already been done.
Because the thing is,
stores is fucking over.
The thing is, Trader Jane, is we can't call a peak in this pandemic or in epidemic here in the United States if Italy hasn't hit theirs. How are we going to hit a peak before Italy?
Dude, I'm not even following the virus numbers anymore. The damage has already been fucking done. It doesn't even matter when they open up economies. It doesn't matter how long they push it back and they're like, we think we can open up here. The financial damage has already been done, and it's going to get worse. It's only going to get worse from here.
All right, that's part one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, leave your feedback in the comments below. Make sure you hit that thumbs up as well if you want to see Trader Jane back on. We have a lot of exciting things for you guys coming up in the next few weeks, so make sure you show some love. Yeah, part two coming soon. Peace.
Today was a good day.